Internet, my name's Lave, and with Batman v Superman dividing critics and fans alike, I thought it would be a good opportunity to take a look back at Man of Steel, another DC film directed by Zack Snyder which divided critics and fans. We should have seen it coming. So when it was announced that Zack Snyder was directing this, I thought interesting choice. I really liked Watchmen, I really liked 300, Sucker Punch. Maybe because of Sucker Punch it made me really manage my expectations of this film. I kind of knew what we were in for. It was going to be an action-packed, visually stunning film, and I was really interested to see if he changed any of the mythos like he did with Watchmen. And then the teaser trailers dropped and I have to admit I was absolutely gobsmacked. It just had this Terrence Malick feel to the way he shot it. That combined with the Lord of the Rings music, I just thought this was gonna be amazing. But then as more and more trailers and TV spots came out, you kind of saw more of the action and my expectations came down again. Okay, so let's start with the plot. It's largely a remake of Superman the movie and Superman 2. It starts off on Krypton and Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe, sends his baby Kal-El to Earth, who then grows up to become Superman. Unfortunately, General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, follows him there with his army, and then a couple of buildings get destroyed along the way. Yeah, so that's a neat little summary of the plot, but it goes at a ferocious pace. This is compounded by the fact that Zack Snyder took a non-linear approach. Once baby Kal-El gets to Earth, he tells a lot of the story in flashbacks, so it's going backwards and forwards. And I actually did enjoy that you get to see flashbacks of him as a kid growing up and discovering his powers like X-ray vision. Not only that, I do think it's in the flashbacks where most of the emotional heavy lifting is being done, particularly with the scenes with Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner. Great bit of casting there. And the same can be said with Diane Lane as Martha Kent. She has a really good tender moment with her son early in the film. And speaking of casting, I do think that this film has been cast really well. Henry Cavill looks the part as Superman, maybe a little bit overweight, even though he's playing a darker, younger Superman who's not sure if he should become Superman. He still has this urge to help people, and despite what a lot of people say, he does save some people in this. He saves those guys. He saves a bus full of kids and that guy. Easily 10 people he saves. Lois Lane is played by Amy Adams, and I really liked how she portrayed Lois. She actually does feel like a reporter and is going out there to find the best stories. She can spell in this one, and I like the fact that she figures out who Clark is, and there's none of this not knowing that Clark Kent is Superman. I liked that change. Overall, I think all of the casting was pretty spot on. I thought Russell Crowe was okay, maybe a bit hammy in spaces. I also liked Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, despite the bling earring. What the hell was that about? Hey kids, I'm cool. And I actually thought Michael Shannon's Zod was okay. I think everyone was expecting him to be the best villain ever. That's just because it's Michael Shannon. He's a really good actor. And I think everyone was just a bit surprised that it was just okay. Heresy! So yeah, sticking with the positives, the action scenes are amazing. Easily the highlight of the film is the Smallville fight for me with Faora Earl, played by Anja Trower. She kicks ass. On a side note, when I re-watched this in preparation for this review, I never noticed before, but the big Kryptonian, when he jumps at the plane, I looked at it and I thought, hang on, did he just rip that pilot's head off? And then I looked a little bit closer and was like, yep, he just ripped that pilot's head off. Ugh. Well, yeah, that's pretty dark. I never noticed that before. Tell me if you did in the comments and I'll say you're a liar. Another moment which I really enjoyed in the film is Superman's first flight. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because of Superman the movie, but I've always had a thing for characters that can fly, and I really wanted a decent first flight, and oh man, it delivered. That imagery combined with Hans Zimmer's score, I found it absolutely exhilarating, amazing. Yeah, fair play Hans Zimmer. I know he's considered to be one of the best at what he does, but following on from John Williams' score must have been daunting as hell, but he pulled it off. He nails it. But having said that, in the hands of Zack Snyder, I do think that he uses the piano riff quite a lot. I do think that Snyder pinpointed that as the emotional trigger. It's like, emotional scene.
Out in the ocean.
Oh, emotional scene. Oh, emotional scene. Emotional scene. Emotional scene. Emotional scene. Emotional scene. Emotional scene. Boom, boom. See what I mean? The fact that he used it so many times kind of made it diminish in effect for me. Might just be me, but you know. And perhaps that's the best description for this film. It's good, but maybe Zack Snyder just went a bit OTT with it. So I can totally understand why a lot of critics felt that it was just a bit too much at the end. And I agree, it literally goes from the Smallville fight to the world engine destroying Metropolis Superman fighting the weird tentacle things, didn't like them at all, could have been cut from the film. And just when you think it's all over, then there's a massive smackdown fight between Superman and Zod. Yeah, it is pretty exhausting. And I've got to be honest, I didn't mind the fact that it ends with Superman snapping Zod's neck. At the time in the cinema, I was like... But I kind of took it as Superman choosing us over Krypton. There is a line where he says Krypton had its chance, and yeah, so I kind of bought it. Okay, so largely a positive review, so let's talk about some of the negatives. Plot holes. First of all, the suit being in the spaceship. Now, I wouldn't have minded it so much if they'd explained that the ship somehow made it or crafted it with some kind of technology. I would have bought that, but they don't. And they mentioned twice before that the ship has been there for about 20,000 years. Yeah, that didn't fly, no pun intended. Then you've got how Superman gets his powers. They say that the atmosphere somehow nourishes him. They do mention that it's the sun. I think Jor-El says it, where he says, your cells have drunk in the sun's radiation. And they kind of establish that he breathes, so then how does he fly into space? But maybe that's just a fundamental flaw with Superman himself. Yeah. But the fact that Zod wanted to terraform Earth and turn it into Krypton and lose the chance of being able to be invulnerable and fly and do all this amazing shit, why would you do that? Maybe they were just hung up on this idea of destroying Metropolis for the setup of Batman. That's debatable. And another negative, which I did pick up on my first viewing, and I think a lot of people have said it as well. We all know that Zack Snyder is a visual director and he likes to take visual inspiration from comics. He did it a lot with Watchmen and 300, which is great. But what really surprised me is how much visual inspiration he took from other films. Now, it started in the opening scene and I thought, oh, that's a nice nod to Batman 1989. But then we move on to Planet Krypton and I saw elements of Avatar in that, particularly in the flying beasts. Then we move on to the Matrix. You've got the whole Matrix babies, and then even the fight at the end, I saw elements of the fight between Neo and Agent Smith. And they've even taken inspiration from their rivals at Marvel, totally ripping off Iron Man. And then this last scene here is a complete rip-off. What a fucking joke. I'm only kidding. That last one is a nice nod to the Donner films, which I love. So that's my thoughts on Man of Steel. Very much like Batman v Superman, as it turns out. There are bits that I liked, bits what I didn't like. Visually interesting and the action scenes are good, but ultimately flawed. It was a good summer blockbuster film, and I did feel that they'd set it up quite nicely for Superman to become Superman again. And in all honesty, when they did announce that Batman v Superman was coming out at Comic-Con, now while I did think, oh my god, that's awesome, there was a bit of me that thought I wanted to see Man of Steel 2 before, but I guess they were just more interested in ramming home the fact that they're getting the Justice League onto screen as soon as fucking possible. So that's my thoughts on Man of Steel, and pause the video now if you want to check out my enjoyment tracker. As I say, a very good action film, visually very interesting, with a lot of flaws for sure, but still quite entertaining. So thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Either way, tell me in the comments. Emotional. Ding ding. Subscribe.